Let's welcome in our Powerhouse panel, get some reaction to everything happening over the weekend and today. We start with reporter for the Daily Caller and Newsmax contributor Chrissy Clark, best-selling author and political analyst Mark Halperin, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member and principal at Red Tail Strategies, Christopher Arps, back with us this morning. A couple topics that I want to cover with you, panel, this morning. Great to have you back on. Hope you had great weekends. A tweet by the Washington Examiner pointing out that Mike Pompeo and Ted Cruz are backing a candidate that is not named Dr. Mehmet Oz in the Pennsylvania Republican Senate primary. They are backing David McCormick. Pennsylvania primary will happen this coming Tuesday, so not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, May the 17th. Mark, to you first on this. And I think we expected this, but I think Mike Pompeo and Ted Cruz might be running for president again. Is this their way of slowly breaking with President Donald Trump, who I might add, by the way, is a perfect 55 for 55 in endorsements so far? He's not going to be, he won't be batting 1,000 once the primary season is over, but his endorsement seems to be very helpful to many of these candidates. Just look at J.D. Vance last Tuesday.
I don't think it's their motive for why they're endorsing Dave McCormick, nor do I think it will cause some big split with President Trump, but it definitely splits them in the short term with the former president. Ted Cruz split with him in Ohio in that primary, in that Senate primary. And I think particularly interesting is Secretary Pompeo is going pretty aggressively after Dr. Oz on the question of his ties to Turkey. That, I think, could cause a rupture between Oz and Pompeo. But again, I don't think this will have implications related to President Trump.
There's that Washington Examiner tweet. We've got a West Virginia and Nebraska primary tomorrow. Then next Tuesday, again, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, a lot of very important states will hold their primaries. What's interesting, Pennsylvania, we're talking about 20 electoral votes here, Chrissy. Donald Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016, lost it in 2020. How important is it that Republicans keep control of this seat, especially if they're trying to turn the House, flip the House red and the Senate red in November?
Oh, absolutely. It's always going to be important. Every single one of these races is incredibly important to securing a GOP stronghold, if that's what they're interested in. Where I think the fracture actually comes more in between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump on the Dr. Oz question, it's actually the issue of transgenderism. And I think it goes to show that there's still a fraction and a little bit of cognitive dissonance on whether Trump was in favor or against the transgender movement. He's pro-LGBT, which is wonderful, but at the same time, you have to question Dr. Oz's motives on talking so openly about youth.
To Eastern Europe. Today, Victory Day in Russia. It's an annual holiday there where they mark the collapse of Nazi Germany at the end of the Second World War in 1945. So Vladimir Putin's already delivered what we think will be his main speech today. There was nothing new to come out of it. He said what he's been saying all along. He calls what's happening in Ukraine, that war, he calls it a special military operation. Chris, to you, just some reaction as we now they're 7 hours ahead of us. We're in New York here, 7 hours ahead of us in Moscow. So now we're starting to react to what we saw. And I'm wondering if you think, do you think that his muted tone today could be the start of a de-escalation by taking this lower key approach? Is he acknowledging how badly the Russian army has performed to date in Ukraine?
I think he is. I was expecting from the speech for him to continue to say that we're in Ukraine because it needs to be denazified, even though they have a Jewish leader. I expected him to do more saber rattling and threatening that if the West gets more involved in this war, that he would use nuclear weapons. This muted tone was very surprising to me, and maybe he is realizing that this is a slog, and maybe this is the beginning of them beginning to pull out in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, again, we've had this day circled on the calendar for weeks now. The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States literally yesterday on the Sunday shows said that she expects a formal declaration of war today from Vladimir Putin. Hasn't happened yet. Take a listen.
Well, that would be the first time when Putin will say the truth, that it is war and that he is in dire need of conscripting soldiers. I hope that then it will be evident to all Russians what they are doing in Ukraine. That's an aggressive war. They attacked a neighboring country, a peaceful country. And the question is, are they prepared to have more tens of thousands dying in Ukraine for no reason at all?
So again, Mark, it's about 2:20 in the afternoon there in Moscow. A lot could still come out of the Kremlin, but the speech was very muted today. There was not much to report out of what we were thinking was going to be, a day where we saw some movement.
One of the West's challenges has been to understand where Putin's head is at. I think some of that buildup was generated just in the vacuum. This has been the slowest moving news story, major news story that I can remember, where very little happens. There's obviously death and destruction on the ground, but in terms of kind of geopolitical diplomatic developments, very slow moving. Don't be surprised if Putin does an interview with a Western journalist soon in which he lays out more of his thinking than we've heard so far. But until that happens, I think we're looking through this glass pretty darkly.
Well, we had General Holt on the show Friday. He said there are three options: escalate the war, he could do nothing, or he could declare victory and start to end the war. Right now, it looks like he's doing nothing. Again, that was the take this morning. Chrissy,
Rob, I think part of the reason we also see this muted response too is all the reports we're hearing about Russian soldiers sabotaging their equipment and their tanks. I mean,
and fleeing the country. Russians are leaving their own country. They've got huge borders with, by the way, several NATO countries. Think about that bordering Russia to the north, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. They are fleeing the country because they don't want to fight in Putin's army. And quite frankly, if I was 20 years old, I wouldn't want to fight for Vladimir Putin either. Okay, that's all the time we have. Chrissy, I saved you because I know you live in a town where you need a car to drive around. And I want to get into gas prices. Gas prices are once again a huge story as you wake up this morning. Last week, and then we'll move on and we'll revisit this top of the hour. Chrissy, I'm going to start with you. But gas prices last week on Monday, $4.04 a gallon nationally. On Friday, $4.31 a gallon. This morning, many states, including Massachusetts, my old home state, set a record for an all-time high in gas prices today. And diesel, again, is way up. So if you are wondering why things cost so much at the store, they got to get them to the store. Oftentimes they come by truck, and this might explain it. But gas prices have, again, crept back up, which I think is going to be a big story once again. If they're anywhere near where they are right now, come the midterms. Panel will do this again top of the hour. Thank you.